the man suddenly noticed that the cash in his pocket had turned into a handful of ash. He immediately realized something was wrong, jumped into his car and sped home. Rushing into his room, he grabbed a handful of money, then ran to the window and threw it outside. Sure enough, before the bills even hit the ground, they all turned to ashes. To test his theory further, the man returned to his room. He picked up a self-portrait of Van Gogh and brought it to the door, holding half of the painting outside and keeping the other half inside. And just as expected, the part outside turned to dust within seconds. In that moment, he understood. Everything he wished for could not leave this room. Once it did, it would instantly vanish. The man rushed into the wish-granting room and began smashing the walls in a frenzy. He needed to figure out how this room worked. When he finally broke through the walls, he was shocked to see the entire room was wrapped in countless wires. And it wasn't just this room. Even beneath the floor, strange black cables were everywhere. Finally, on one of the walls, he discovered a blueprint of the entire room, but he couldn't make sense of the drawings at all. Just then, he saw his wife heading toward the door with their child. He tried to stop her, but he couldn't explain why in time. His wife refused to listen and stepped outside with the child. The man didn't stop her. Perhaps this was his chance to make that child disappear. He stood at the doorway and silently waited. Sure enough, as soon as his wife walked out, the child immediately started crying. His skin began to change. The shoes on his feet rapidly aged. Hearing his wife's desperate screams for help, the man couldn't hold back anymore. He rushed out the door, scooped up the child and ran back inside. By then, the shoes had already turned to dust, but when they looked at the child, they were stunned. In just a short moment, the baby had grown into a teenager. The man finally understood. Everything wished for turned to ashes upon leaving, because once outside the room, its time was accelerated by tens of thousands of times.